Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting to order. We have a special guest speaker this evening, Sevie Zeller. She's a candidate for City-Parish Council District number 6. So thank you for being with us, and we will soon be talking with you. Before we get started, before we get to our traditional prayer, I'd like to announce that at our next meeting, which is going to be October 5th, we're going to have all the candidates for City Parish Council District number 8. That includes Carol Ross, Liz Webb-Abear, and Gerald Judice. They'll be here and they'll be available to answer your questions, so we invite the public to attend. And then 2 weeks thereafter, on October 19th, we're going to have 2 distinguished candidates for City Parish President. That'll be Joel Robideau and Dee Stanley. They will be here to give their presentation, to give their reasons why they want to be your City Parish President. Also, Nancy Landry, State Representative, will be here to talk about constitutional amendments following the question and answer session of Joel Robideau and Dee Stanley.
Most of you here has met her personally, Sevie Zeller. She's a Lafayette High School at the University of Louisiana.
Excuse me, that speaker's not working. Get a little closer.
Oh, yes, sir. I got my ears a little weak as well.
We need to hear that.
You need to hear what she has to
Yeah.
say. Yeah. But anyhow, Sevie Zeller has announced her candidacy for Lafayette City Parish Council District 6. How's it?
That's good.
Lafayette High School and University of Louisiana and Lafayette alumna. Zeller is an editor of a convenient Spotlight Office of Inventory Manager for Pork Sales and Service, wife of Stephen Zeller, and a mother of 2. She also is the former editor of 008 magazine. Being in the local publishing industry for over a decade, she's been maintained and informed and involved with the many different aspects of Lafayette consolidated government. As I would be out in the community, she says, with fear, residents concerned to discuss what could do to make a change. Now is the time to turn those concerns into action. Zeller said of her decision to run for Lafayette Parish Council District 6. She also plans for leaning on her experience managing a locally owned multi-million-dollar all-field company. She is involved in all aspects, from detail-oriented daily operations of an employee management to large-scale proposal and project development. I plan to merging these different skill sets to provide District 6, the City of Lafayette, and the parish as a whole with an approachable and transparent government official who genuinely cares about the community in which her children are being raised, Zeller said. Zeller said, if elected, she will take a stand against tax increase, demand fiscal responsibility, address infrastructure and drainage issues, and prioritize public health, safety. Furthermore, she will support a comprehensive plan and seek to enhance emergency preparedness, as well as being on focus for aging, veterans, disabled, and youth of this community. And we're certainly happy that you're with us here this evening. Thank you for being here.
I'm a little taller. Can you hear me on this? All right. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Sevie Zeller. I always try to give people memory cues because it's a little bit of an odd name. So if you are a golf follower, my namesake is Sevie Ballesteros. My mother gave me a wonderful story about that, which is he was handsome, and she thought it was a unique name, and so she put an I in it and made it feminine, and so that's Sevie. If you're into cars, there's a fairly common part I know very little about, which is a Sevie joint. Oh. Is that better? I tend to be a little soft-spoken too, so just give me the thumbs up and I'll think I'm doing good and speak up at the same time. So anyways, just to give you a little bit, I'm just going to hold. Is it okay if I just grab this and hold
That's
it?
fine.
I don't want to mess up your tech. Is this better? Yes. All right. And I feel a little more comfortable too. That way I can get to my Cajun roots and talk with my hands. So just to give you a little background about myself, which Ms. Carol did such a wonderful job with that. I was born here. I was raised in Florida. My father was in the oil field for quite a while, and we were transferred over to Florida. So I had my toes in the sand and got a little bit of that relaxed nature that you see in me. And when I was about 14, I moved back here. I went to Lafayette High, and I graduated from UL as well. I did go to LSU for a short time period. My mother has spina bifida, and she was having some health issues, and so instead of having to travel that bridge every day, if you guys have done that, it's a little bit of a nightmare, and I would always be so worried about having to sleep on the bridge, and so I decided to go ahead and transfer back over here, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made, because our local university here is just outstanding, and I've made some wonderful connections, and I'm just so very, very thankful. I'm still involved with them to this day through the Alumni Association, and pretty much anything I can get my hands on over there, because I just bleed red. So I am a homeowner of District 6. I live right across from Lafayette High. My family has lived there for as long as I can remember. And so when I tell you that my heart is in District 6, it's not just a turn of phrase, it's truly my reality. I genuinely care about the area in which my 2 young children are being raised. I have elderly grandparents that I'm very concerned about. I have a disabled mother that all of these things drive me to maybe just step out of my comfort zone and run for this office, because it's not something that I really thought, planned for years in advance. It just was something that God put on my heart, and so I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and start entering into the conversations to make sure that I fully understand what this involves and what kind of time that it would take up, because I do have 2 young children and I want to be able to balance everything. But I really feel comfortable, and I know that I'm doing the right thing through this process. I'm jumping around because I get excited when I start talking. I am an active member of Our Savior's Church. I have just found a home there. Part of what I do, let me just back up for a second and tell you guys. So I have always kind of had 2 careers. And when I was an intern at UL, I was always heavily involved in communications. I was in public relations, Student Society of America, Sigma Gamma Mu, et cetera, et cetera. Just really always felt the need to just be involved and take action. And I started doing an internship with 008 magazine and instantly fell in love. I just thought, man, I get to go out and I get to meet these local business owners, and I'm helping them get the word out. And in my heart, I felt like it was helping them achieve their American dream, right? They had a passion about something, and they were taking a chance and putting it out there, and we were able to bring it to the public. I also got to work with a lot of nonprofits, which is something I have a huge heart for. And so I just naturally felt really comfortable with 008 magazine and being able to get out in the community. And that's kind of where it all started at. I did that for about 10 years, and after I had my children, I thought that it might be because of how we had grown the magazine. I think it was like 360% or some ridiculous number I could have never anticipated. And so I decided to go back into the oil field, which I had been working as a consultant with for quite a while. I do a lot of different tech work, their website, we launched new software, all this kind of stuff. And so I decided to go ahead and do that full time. And it was such a blessing because we were able to launch 5 locations nationally. We did international jobs, and so it really opened my eyes to various markets and being able to understand how different regions work. And I was also doing travel writing, so I was able to go visit all of these different areas and kind of see how their governments were operating and how their cities were growing. And so all of this kind of played into where I am today, which is once you're in media, you just kind of can't help it. And so while I was with the oil field company, I was approached, God-led, I like to say, for Covenant Spotlight magazine. And if any of you have faith, I would highly encourage you to pick up a copy. I have some in my car. I should have brought them in. It's a wonderful publication. We're the only local full-color glossy publication. But the reason that I mentioned that here today, what does that have to do with council, right, is that it drives everything that I do. I have such a great support system within the church, within my village. It is my moral compass, and I will always go back to that when I have questions. I mean, he gave us a book to go off of. You know, he gave us the guidebook already. But what the other part of it is that it always kept me in touch with the community, because I have a little bit of a fear of kind of over government regulation, and I want to be able to enable the community as much as possible to play their role. And I think that a lot of the problems that our community is seeing can be addressed and helped by the church. And so I really have a heart for enabling these various organizations that can help. I want to enable the churches to help, and so that's kind of what the central focus of that publication is. And so more recently, we know the climate of the oil field. And so I was in a position where I needed to transition, and so we are now launching another publication called 337, and it's the same kind of concept, which is just Lafayette community, Acadiana, localism. And the reason that this sets me apart from other people who are running for this particular position is the fact that I can't help but be transparent. It's just who I am in my nature, and I want, that's what it just, I want to make sure that people are informed. If you have questions, please ask. Let's find out what we can do. If I don't, hopefully I have the answer. If I don't have the answer, I guarantee that within a few days we'll have a meeting set up and we can get with the appropriate people who will get us an answer. And I pride myself on being approachable and transparent and making sure that I have a fresh perspective. You know, we have an opportunity now. Everyone knows how important this election is, with all of the different offices that are going to be voting on and potentially changing. And so we really have an opportunity now to get some fresh faces in government that have new ideas, that understand what worked in the past or maybe what didn't work in the past, and to start moving us in that direction. And I have everything on the line for it. It's the community in which my children are being raised, and I want to make sure that our economic development is long-lasting, but that we're smart about how we do that. I don't want to rush into things and be half-hearted about them and then find out long-term that maybe we could have done things a little bit differently. And we have seen that, unfortunately, a couple of times in some decisions that were made. So I talked a little bit about my background. I've talked about who I am. I do always like to mention, you know, I have a heart for education. I've talked about my own personal education, but I come from a family of educators. And so something that I think is really important moving forward is the relationship between the council and the school board. And I just want to let people know that, you know, I am a communication major, and so it's very important that we have established and improve the communication between these very important decision-making bodies in our area, and that we can work together for the betterment of the youth of our community. Let's see, I'm going to look over my little notes real quick. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to just mention, so that way you guys know why I'm qualified for this position, aside from what I've already mentioned, is that in my everyday life, I'm constantly working with a lot of the departments within our government. And so we were constantly making sure that we're in touch with law enforcement and making sure that we were bringing Acadiana information so that way they could be safe at home or in their travels or whatever that is, with the fire departments, with the various public works. You know, infrastructure is something that's very important to me, and it's crucial to our area moving forward to make sure that we address this deficit. I don't know how else to put it. It's horrendous is really what it is, and something has got to be done. I have my little cards if you didn't get a chance to see this, but the reason that we chose to say turning concerns into action, yes ma'am, thank you, is that for so long I reported on things from an unbiased standpoint, right? Because as a journalist, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to talk to all sides and present that information to the public in a manner, or that's how I would like to do it, that allows you to make up your decision, because we're different people and your views on things may be different from mine, but at least we know both sides and everybody can reasonably make their own opinions about things. And so I kind of got to a place where I said, you know, I'm kind of tired of always being so unbiased about things. I'm opinionated, you know, my husband will tell y'all that. And so I really just wanted to be able to actually to have a voice about things that I felt pretty strongly about. And the City-Parish Council is an opportune way to utilize the skills that I have, because I understand the main, you know, while we need to diversify our economy, unfortunately we're not quite as diverse as what we would like to be, and we are still very central to the oil and gas industry. I understand that. I've worked there, I've been there. And so we want to see transparency in the government done. You know, I want to make sure that we're presenting information from, I think there's a lack of dissemination of information from the council out to the public. A really, really large percentage of our voters are going to be under 40. They are not the future, they are right now. And so something that is a heart of mine, you know, while the college isn't exactly in our district, most of the housing, well, I don't want to say most of it, but a good percentage of the housing is. And so we are actively trying to make sure that these younger generations are actively taking part in their government. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that they have the information. And they have it in advance, so that way if they choose to come and speak, that they have the appropriate amount of time in which to do so. And so I have some really great ideas on how we can use modern technology to help get these younger demographics more involved, and just make, and when we talk about being transparent, it's just, you know, listen, anybody can go get a copy of the budget, right? We all have access to that, but it's a lot of times people are not aware of what's happening on a weekly basis at these meetings and the things that directly affect them. And you know, we hear a lot of things about, you know, things being snuck in at the last minute, or things that weren't so obvious that, you know, if I would have known, I would have been there to say something. You don't have to worry about that with me. We have ideas for apps, and we want to create some new websites. Obviously, social media is very important right now. That's something that I do on the side, is run social marketing for various companies, and just something I have a heart for. So those are all things that you can expect from me. And I just really want to say that, you know, the decision to seek public office is not something that I take lightly at all. District 6 alone it has some very, very unique needs. I'm sure I'm probably telling you stuff you already know, but we're the only district that is 100% within city limits. We have over 16,000 people, and yet for some reason, I would say about a tenth of people are actually coming out and being active participants. That's scary. And I want to see people come out and have their say, and make sure that, you know, things aren't happening and then after the fact they're saying, well I don't like that. Okay, well, you know, let's be more involved. And on that same note, while it's important for us to address that younger generation that is voting, I also love the fact that in District 6 we have a lot of really established residents. They've been there. They've owned their houses for years and years and years. They've been contributing to Lafayette's development, and all of those from A to Z, they deserve an approachable and effective council representative who understands our district specific needs. And those are different from neighborhood to neighborhood. Every single neighborhood. We lived in Plaza Village for a while, and I only say that because the needs in Plaza Village are very different from the needs of my current neighborhood. And I have really great relationships with people in all of those neighborhoods. I have no problem. We go out walking the dog and talk with people, and that's the way that you really find out what those residents' hearts are. And so that's something that I can guarantee that will not change about me, is that I want to work with the residents of not just District 6, but the parish as a whole. So I talked a little bit about how our parish is moving into a new era. We have, you know, a new city parish president coming in. We have the new council.
council, we have a new sheriff, and these are just a few examples. And so it's just really important for us to have a progressive councilman who is accessible, who is consistent, and who is looking to better utilize our existing resources. I don't think anyone is a big fan of taxing, right? And we really need to take a look right now because we're generating more than we ever have in the past. And so it just becomes a question of, for me, prioritizing. And so there's a lot of conversation right now about NGO funds. And so the reason that I mention that is while it is important for us to support certain non-governmental organizations, especially ones that are very great for the community, we also need to be mindful of where our priorities are. And that kind of goes back to some of my budgeting experience. You have X amount of dollars. You really need to make sure that, you know, before we say, hey, let's go put another $75,000 into Festival International. I love Festival International, but you know where one of my strengths is involving the private sector and saying, hey, who will partner with us to see that we take, and I'm just using this as an example. I love Festival, if y'all know, it's one of my favorite things. And so I just want to get the community more involved to where we can say, you know what, we really, really need to address some of this drainage. I mean, we still have some drainage systems that are made out of clay. And that's, I mean, it's just not cutting it. We just have to address that. And so there has to be a point in a time where as a council we say, we love this, we want to support these certain things in any way that we can, but let's start some dialogue with some nonprofits, with the private sector, with businesses that want to be involved, and that way we can better utilize our existing resources for things that absolutely have to be addressed. The traffic conditions, the infrastructure, road conditions. I mean, we literally have roads that are turning into gravel, and that's not just me saying that. I have pictures. You know, I mean, it's just that we have to do something about it. It's damaging your personal property. I don't know about you. I'm sure we all work really hard for our vehicles, and so to damage your property just getting to work or getting to church or getting to, you know, your family or whatever it is, it's ridiculous, for a lack of a better term, and it's something that's preventable and something that we have the ability to do something about. Let's see, what else am I doing? I'm doing everything. I love to be involved, if I tell you guys. So I'm currently involved with several different organizations. I have, if you talk about nonprofits or volunteer work or that kind of thing, I'm really, really involved with Louisiana Heart Gallery, who is through Love Acadiana. If you guys are not familiar with them, I hope you will take a second to get familiar with them. They are helping children in the foster care system who are free for adoption to find homes, and with their work that they're doing is fantastic. They're helping schools with some much needed supplies. I won't go into all that with it because that's just private stuff, but I absolutely love it. I'm involved with the Alumni Association, with the Writers Guild. I just have a servant's heart. I always have. That's why I really just don't like the word politician. I think it carries a negative connotation. The truth is that I have a servant's heart, and that comes in many different ways, and I just want to give back to the community in any way that I can. I have literally worked with everything from St. Joseph Diner, Maddie's Footprints, Susan Komen, Miles Perrette, the children's shelters before unfortunately they were closed. I could go on and on. Things that directly apply to the council would be, we recently had our future funding committee meeting, and that was I wish they could record that and put that out to the public, because it really gives us an idea of what we can start to anticipate coming down the pipeline. While we're dealing with the crises that are going on right now, we need to be forward looking and understanding what's going to be coming at us so we can start preparing for those things. And then also something that really is on my heart right now is our city's compliance with the American Disabilities Act. I've mentioned that my mother has spina bifida, but that's just, you know, one small portion. The truth is that we really need to step up our game, for a lack of a better term. I mean, with the compliance in our area is just, it's sad, and we can do better. And I'm really done talking about it. I'm ready to get an action plan together, and I'm ready to start seeing these things moving. And so we're in a really unique position to be able to do that and see the fruits of our labor, which is really great. And it's vital to, when we talk about improving our region, and I want to see the preservation and the development of the historical downtown Lafayette. We have so much to be proud of, and a lot of these buildings can be renovated and repurposed, and therefore generating revenue for our area. For a lot of people love this mixed-use development. I love that in downtown there's definitely a certain demographic that want that and want that feel and love it, and I love it too. So it's really exciting to kind of see our community embracing that. And we want to promote the arts and culture and just the entertainment community in general. Everything in life is a balance, and you have to live a good life too. We can address the infrastructure, and we can also see the Acadiana Center for the Arts promoting our area, which is bringing in various tourism and bringing people into our region, and that's really beneficial to us, and it's just an exciting thing. So in general, I basically just support any organization that's helping our area. I'm backing Bayou Vermilion and anything that is helping us to increase some of our recreational opportunities. I do have young children, I do have a dog, and we do love to be outside. So those things are all important to me, people being physically fit and just really getting to know your neighbors. I mean, when you're out and you're walking to the park, you're interacting with people, and it's healthy for our community, and it improves everyone's quality of life. A few things that I just want to touch on before I wrap up, because I can be long-winded because I get really passionate about these things, is that I really just feel that Lafayette Parish, because even though I represent District 6, we serve the entire parish, and it's so important because our parish affects all of the surrounding parishes, and then it goes to the state level, and we set the example. So when we start here, we have the opportunity to, most of the time they say things go downhill, but in this instance, we have the opportunity to make a better change going upward. And so basically, we just really need to think long and hard about the representatives that are going to be elected on October 24th, or if you're an early voter, which I'm really pushing for this cycle. So get the word out about early voting, help me to get the word out. But we really need a representative that is protecting our interest, and that's especially those issues involving traffic conditions, infrastructure maintenance, and the city-owned Lafayette utility system. That's something that really needs to be addressed. We hear a lot about the charter right now. It's a kind of a dangerous topic to get involved with, but the truth of the matter is we have to start having some open dialogue. There are some serious issues going on that need to be addressed. There's a lot of varying opinions about the best way to do so, but the one common thread is that we all agree that Lafayette needs to be represented to have a voice just as the other municipalities are having their voice. And that does not necessarily mean deconsolidation, because the people have spoken twice. They don't want that. So we need to go about finding a solution that will satisfy what the people are clearly saying is their desires. And our growth is inevitable. And we can either continue to discuss these concerns in an unbiased manner, or we can start turning those concerns into actions. And as I've mentioned, I have grandparents who are aging, a mother with disabilities, and children who are growing. There's no better motivation to continue improving our community, the safety, the security, and the stability. I want to ensure that my neighborhood has law enforcement and firefighters who are well paid and well qualified. And I have the experience, the heart, and the determination that is needed on Lafayette's key decision-making body. I want to sincerely thank you guys for your time and an open ear, and just please know that at any point in time, if there's anything that I can do to help a cause that is close to your heart, that I would love that opportunity. Thank you so much.
6 inches.
We're going to have Frank, Flynn, our person, to ask the first question, but we encourage everyone who has a question to come up to the mic and please ask your question. I'm sure we'll see you will have some.
I'll try.
How many did we get?
I'll give you mine.
I got 6, so.
Oh, Mr. Ray's gonna put me to the fire.
You're not the only one. Thank you for coming. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
If you had to identify one of your life experience, what one life experience do you believe uniquely qualifies you to be the council person for Parish Council Member District number 6?
A life experience. It's a deep question. I really have to say that, gosh, there's so many that are going through my mind right now, but I think having my children. I say that because that brought me to have a relationship with Christ. That brought me to begin to fully understand the decisions that we were making and the impact on them. And it kind of, not to say that I wasn't conscious or doing things before them, but it really just kind of took me into what I like to call mama mode and just making sure that I'm saying, hey, you know what, no. And no means no, and we're going to start doing something about this, and I'm serious. And so for those of you that have children, you know when you go into mama mode, you know, so I really have to say that having my children is what started me down this path.
Thank you. What role will you play if elected councilperson from District 6 in expanding LUS fiber network to the unincorporated areas of the parish, to the other municipalities, or perhaps beyond the artificial parish boundary?
That's a great question. I love LUS Fiber. I'm such a techie. I'm like, it's so great for our community, the capabilities that we have, that it enables us to have are just unending. What is sobering is that we have not really seen a demand from the municipalities, from the unincorporated parts of the parish. And maybe that's just a matter of open dialogue. I know there's a little, you know, you start talking about money and all of a sudden, you know, things clam up a little bit. And so I think that maybe we just need to, when it was initially developed, it was initially developed for the city itself, and so maybe we need to just retake a look at how we are pitching that to the outer areas, because I think that I would love to see it grow. I think there's great potential there, and I know the benefit that it would have for those residents in those outlying areas. So I'm on board for expansion.
Thank you. Many years ago, the Chamber of Commerce, under the leadership of Chairperson Jeannie Kramer, endorsed the Lafayette City-Parish Charter, even knowing the existing shortcomings. What priority for Lafayette City, if the parish charter changes or revision, would you champion?
Whew. Such a heated question, you know, so one of those decisive things. I really have to say there's several issues I would like to address. If I have to pinpoint one for you, it's really just making sure that the residents of Lafayette Parish are having appropriate representation. All of the other areas have their own representation, and we need to make sure that we're being equally represented because of the way that the population and the spending lines fall.
Thank you. In your announcement for the District 6 Council seat, you mentioned that infrastructure and draining issues were important and that making public health and safety would be a top priority. How do you intend to do that without raising new taxes?
Sure, that's a really great question. We have some programs in the work that will hopefully free up some money. I know that there's some legal conditions that they're ironing out with some of these abatement properties, and so I'm interested to see where that goes because that is a really great revenue stream for us. When we talk about, I just keep saying the better utilization of existing resources, and that's just to take a look at, you know, sometimes you just have to say no. And that's a really, you know, that's something that I don't think any of us want to hear. And unfortunately, I think sometimes by saying no and not spending in as much in certain areas, when we start looking at this budget process, while in the short term it may not be pleasing to everyone in the long term, it really enables us to get our feet underneath ourselves and to say, you know what, okay, we're gonna look at this $20 million infrastructure problem, and you know what, do I have the answer to $20 million? No, but you know what, we can maybe start with 1 million. I know where we can get 1 million at. Let's start there, and let's look at those classes of roads that are in the most disrepair, and let's begin there. And so it's always just about taking that first step. And that's, in my opinion, a really good way to start without having to tax people to death. We pay too much. I want all money. No? I worked hard for that.
Thank you.
Was that it?
Mr. Green is gonna come.
Mr. Green, you want to be next?
Meeting will be over before I get up there.
No. Can we maybe move this to him? No, it doesn't reach.
Thank you.
You have a, you're at the corner next one.
Sir?
You have a change. Need a screwdriver.
Good job. I'll go easy on this. While he's doing that, you're a Republican or Democrat?
Republican.
Good, okay. I won't get into the bit because you've discussed it a little bit about the hypocrisy of Lafayette, because we're not truly a consolidated area, as you know, so we won't get into that. What is your definition of getting involved? You have used that word at least 10 times, getting involved. The reason I say that, picture a plate of ham and eggs. The chicken got involved by providing the eggs, but whether that pig made a commitment.
Right.
What are you going to basically make a commitment to do that really touches your heart?
Okay, so just so I'm clear, are you asking about how I intend to get involved, or how I intend to get other people involved?
Both.
Okay.
If you like.
I'm going to sit behind the council desk and start holding people to the fire. That's where I'm going to be involved.
Yeah.
How I plan to get other people involved is exactly kind of what I've ironed out here. I want to see the churches step forward. I want to see nonprofits supported. I want to see our private sector. A lot of the business community, they're willing and able, and they are just to support them in what they're already doing. It's fantastic. And there's numerous ways. And I think it's a matter of finding the things that are important to you and letting your light shine in those areas, because for different people, involvement is at different levels.
If you knew that you could accomplish 1 feat, what would that 1 feat be?
To say one is so difficult, but I would really, really what's important to me right now is getting this infrastructure under control. But I would not be doing us justice if we didn't address the charter issue. I mean, we have these guidelines, and we need to make sure that they're very clear, and they're not at this point.
I concur 100%. What is your involvement with the American Disability Act? I'm concerned about that, not trying.
Oh, well, I know what your heart is, and so I'm very excited to see where you're able to take this, because you've gotten some things done so far. We've just had a meeting with the commission that they have locally, and so basically what they're trying to do is it's a big financial mess. You know, I mean, they took, I don't know if you're able to see the presentation, I know it was right up your alley, but they just took a square area of downtown. So we're not talking about the whole city or the parish. It was like literally a little square of downtown, and highlighted all of the areas, and I was trying so hard not to get upset, because, you know, when you're in this public eye, I didn't want to show weakness, but it's like, you know, I couldn't help but think of my mother. And they were showing these pictures of sidewalks that are completely impassable, and areas where the grades are so steep that they've become impassable. And to think that the citizens of our region cannot even get to the courthouse to take care of basic documentation. I'm getting goosebumps right now. That's how the Holy Spirit talks to me, because I'm hard-headed, so that we communicate in Braille. But we have got to start somewhere, and so nobody is expecting us to, you know, tackle the entire project. But what I was really excited to hear them doing is that they have this open dialogue, so we can start saying, okay, we know the city has these 4 projects currently underway. Now we have a map, and we know where these areas are. Let's make sure these are all being fixed. And hey, by the way, if there's just one on this little side street, is there a way that we can kind of couple that in and start just tackling it one street at a time, one area at a time, and not just downtown, but we want to see Upper Lafayette being addressed. You know, we wanted, there's a lot of different regions, and we just have to just start a little bit at a time, but at least doing something instead of just talking about it.
Sooner or later, there's going to come a time when we're going to have more money. Are you in favor of the property tax or sales tax?
The truth of the matter is that I'm not able to answer that question because it is dependent on the situation at the time and what is being proposed. And so I don't ever want to sit here and say, oh, I stand for this 100% without knowing the entire scenario and the entire of what is being presented. And so the only way that I can honestly answer that to you is to say that I would be open to listening to what their proposition is. I know there are benefits and drawbacks to both of those. And I'm just very hesitant to answer that straightforward without having an entire picture. And that's just my journalist background. You know, I'm scared I don't want to ever promise something that I can't deliver on, or that I would come back and regret later. So.
Thank you very much.
Well, he took it easy on me.
We have Ms. Jackie LeBlanc here.
Hey, Miss Jackie.
How are you? I am Jackie LeBlanc, today, yesterday, and tomorrow. I want to tell you that you're new and I'm old. And I want to ask you, is there anyone or any way we could have somebody get a grant from the federal government to help with our American disability? I know we have a lot of areas in Lafayette. I have been to probably 60% of them. And there are places that I cannot go. There are some that are slanted like this, and you get on a scooter like this, and you might just fall over if you're not careful. And you did say something about the courthouse, and that is absolutely true. And I have been asking about that for so very long. To the courthouse, it's hard to get into there. But I did have somebody tell me that I could park anywhere I wanted to if I could not find the handicap spot. So you know that, if I'm ever arrested. Now, I want to ask you, do you know of anybody that can write a grant, or could you work on that? Because the federal government has mandated these rules for handicapped people. So they should be able to be involved in it. And we send our money to the, what is it, IRS? We send our money there. We should get some of it back to take care of our handicap issues. And we have many. I want to ask you where your district is. What do you represent?
Okay, so specifically, are we talking about the
Your
geographical
District
boundaries?
6. Your
Yes,
District
ma'am.
6. Where is that?
Okay, so the way I like to explain it is that we cover the stretch of Johnston and Congress Street from, they're signaling me in the back. Can I borrow your microphone for just a second? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
They're telling me I'm doing great. The way I like to express it is that we cover the stretch of Johnston and Congress Street from University to Ambassador. We cover that whole stretch of Ambassador. We have Eras Landry, Bertrand, there's a little bit of South College, a little bit of River Ranch in there, a little this, a little that. It was like they did the hokey pokey and drew some lines there. But there, I would invite any of you, if you do go online, my website is on my cards. It's www.SevieZeller.com, SevieZeller.com. And just to show you like how important it is for me for everyone to understand what district there is, I have a page that has every map, not District 6, all of the maps. And I want for you to understand that this is what district you're in, and this is who your councilman is, and that you shouldn't just know who your councilman is, but you should have a relationship with your councilman for issues like this. I will have you know, and it's important for you to know that they are currently right now working on a second project that will enable you to easily access the courthouse. I can't wait for that to get started. It's going to be very, very good for that area and for people that have various needs. You know, it's not just people that are in scooters, but there's, you know, the visually impaired and just everyone at any point in time is going to have some kind of documentation that they need to have taken care of down there, and that's just one basic thing. Just to address your question about the grant, that is not my area of expertise. I want to be open and honest with you. However, I will tell you that with the Disabilities Commission that we were talking with, they have a wonderful lawyer that's working with them that has a heart of gold and a passion, the team that they have put together, and they are actively seeking ways to, because we want to work with the government. We don't want to just say, oh, you're not doing this. I mean, it doesn't get us anywhere. And they're being really proactive in saying, hey, let's maybe partner with the local university. We have grant writers that are over there. They have experience there. They have the knowledge and the expertise. Can they help us out? And so I really am excited to see the direction that they're going and all of the different, because they have a lot of different things that they're looking at right now as far as being able to get some funding. And so it's very hopeful.
Thank you. I just hope they go somewhere with it, because so often we have a lot of words said about different things, but they sort of fade away, and we don't hear any more about it.
Not have anything to do with it. It's not going anywhere. I promise you that much.
Okay. Your children go to what schools?
I have a 3-year-old, well, 3 going on 30, and he's at Gouchereau right now. We're currently looking at a couple of different options as far as schooling goes, so that's kind of up in the air. My youngest is with a private sitter because she's a princess and she deserves more intimate care. She's a handful, I'll be honest with you. I love her to pieces, and God sent me an angel with my sitter with her. And so we are looking at a couple of different options right now. The school we're zoned for is great, but we also want to consider some Christian options. So that's to be determined.
I will tell you, I have no objection to private schools, but I do object to the charter schools very much. I don't know how you feel about it. That will be your area to work with. Now, what do you think about our policemen? If we get to a point where our policemen, who are not that way now, but if they get very aggressive, and I have come across some policemen that are aggressive. Lady, if you owe me to give a ticket, you just move right now. Maybe I'm parked in front of a place waiting for somebody. Will you stand behind them and sort of make it so that they have a personality that is human?
I have been very fortunate that I know our marshal very well. I have developed a really great relationship with our chief of police, and I know that I want to speak to the climate nationwide of the feeling that we're seeing in certain cities towards law enforcement, and I want to be very careful not to incite any of that, because we can rise above that. I do think that I know for a fact that there have been some incidences that have happened recently, and they have now started some new training programs to help with community relations. And I was really excited, actually. Just today I was at the law enforcement liaison meeting, and it was really great to hear some of the ideas that some other current councilmen were presenting about how we can improve community relations. And so I know that they're not quite ready to launch that just yet.
Careful, he's a lawyer.
Oh my goodness.
Big legal question. The Red Flags program, as you know, has been very controversial for some time. The Red Flags, yes.
Okay.
There have been public reports in the press of nationwide FBI investigation involving public corruption of the Red Flags program. My question is, do you have a problem, or do you support the renewal of the Red Flags program? And secondly, do you have a problem with the fact that this company has been engaged in apparently criminal conduct, and there have been convictions in the Chicago area involving public corruption? The fact that money is being taken from the citizens of Lafayette that's supporting a company which has been engaged in criminal conduct elsewhere in the country. Do you have a problem with that, and will you support the renewal of the Red Flags program?
Whew, I'm going to end that on a tough note right there. So I want to say this, which is corruption is unacceptable. And my concern with the Red Flex program is, and you'll have to excuse me, I do not have a legal background, but I am concerned about due process. There's some specific things about the systems that raise questions for me, which is, how do you know if a letter was ever delivered to someone's house, and some other things that I think were kind of expectations that were set on the forefront that maybe didn't come through quite like we were thinking. I want to temper that with saying that I know a lot of people just want to do away with that. Unfortunately, I'm not of that mindset, which I know is something you probably don't want to hear. I don't know if that is a matter of getting with other companies. I don't really, we would need to engage in some conversation about that to find out some solutions. The reason that I tell you that I'm not in favor of doing away with that program is because while I understand it's very easy to say, hey, you know what, we're going to put a bunch of law enforcement units at all of these stops, and we'll just write tickets the old-fashioned way. But it goes back to utilization of resources. And the fact of the matter is that if we have a police officer who is sitting at the corner of, I'm just throwing something out there, but like Pinhook and Collie Saloon issuing tickets, he's not out answering calls in a timely manner, and he's not out seeing things that are happening in a real-time basis, and we only have a certain amount of law enforcement agents. And so I see a benefit in having these systems on that side of things. But I definitely have some concerns. I cannot sit here and say that I would approve it going back through. We definitely need to have some questions answered and some very clear redefining of what is going to be going on in the future. And so that's just something that I need to find out. Are there other companies? What are their backgrounds? How are other cities addressing some of these corruption issues that we're talking about here? Because I have kind of heard a little bit about the funds that we were expecting to come from that being shuffled from one hand to the other, and that's something that is completely not tolerable. And so I just want for things to be really clear and, for lack of a better word, transparent, so that people understand this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is where the money is going, these are the expectations, and it's all cut and dry.
But there's public information that they've been engaged in misconduct and illegal conduct elsewhere in the country.
But here in Lafayette?
Not in Lafayette. My point is, money is coming out of Lafayette, it's supporting a company that's engaged in a pattern of public corruption and attempt to corrupt public officials. Don't you think the city should cease doing business with that company?
Absolutely. If that's proven, then yeah, we absolutely should.
That's what I'm saying. That's in the public record. There have been convictions in the Chicago area involving that company and elsewhere in the country. So I'm questioning why the city is still doing business, because you're propping up an organization that's committing misconduct elsewhere.
Sure, and I would love to give them an opportunity to address that, because unfortunately I haven't had the opportunity to speak with them. So, what I'm hearing from you is something that, is not acceptable, and I would love to see for you to be able to talk with them in front of, and at the council meeting and get some clear answers as to what's going on and should we continue to trust you, because you're not the only company that does these types of things, and where we want to support people who are doing good for our community and that are paying back. In other words, we don't want to be supporting corruption in any sort of manner. Thank you.
I'd like to comment on that, because and whether you know how it began, and how we ended up with Red Flex in this community. Someone, a state individual of a particular party, managed to there was an agreement because he brought this particular service. But what worries me, let's just assume that we quit a lot of, we reduce wrecks and we stop people speeding. Let's just assume we did that. The whole sale point that I heard at the very beginning was that the money was going to be used for safety. If you go back and check right now, you'll find, I think, that the money is being put in the general fund. So as far as I'm concerned, that was if you talk about taxes, that was a form of taxation. And that's the part I don't believe that it's not doing the job that it's saying it's doing.
Right.
Well,
We can all agree on that.
Yeah, well, but look at the leadership that brought it to that point. That's what I'd like for you to do.
Yes, absolutely. And
And I will just say this, that, you know, I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to renegotiate and to address these things, and I would like to see that happen regularly and consistently, because who's to say that we don't bring another company in and have some issues with them? And so, yeah, I mean, it's just really important for us to be conscious of the fact that there's clearly a problem, and it sounds like everyone here is in agreement on that, and to find out some answers. And we see that in other areas too. You know, we have the recycling and garbage company bid that's going to be coming back up. There's some questions there, and it's time for, we're going to get Mr. Ray to come over and hold him to it and ask some of his tough questions, and he's not going to let him off the hook, you know. And the same thing needs to happen with the camera systems and with the services as well.
There's certainly a lot of disparity.
Yes, sir.
Go on now. So I'd like to have some.
Can I ask if we have Tom be a speaker at some time and explain to us what he was talking about?
Yes.
Maybe it's been in the
We
news,
can
but
do
I've
that
never
today.
heard about it.
We'll
So-
get that done.
Could we talk about that some other time?
We'll make that happen. Is there another question before we
He's
close?
pointing to this lady.
Molly?
Which,
No, I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm
Well,
very
listen,
appreciative of the
close.
opportunity.
Thank you very much. It was very.
Thank you.
Just remember, on the 5th, we're having three council people running for District 8. So you mark your calendars, please, and we'll certainly email you and let you know that we're having that meeting. So we appreciate everyone being here. Thank you all for attending.
Before we close, can I